Joining me now is former Labor leader nationally and New South Wales One Nation leader now, Mark Latham. Mark Latham, thanks for joining us. Is Mitt Romney a saint or a sinner?
Well, he hasn't been joined by any of his Republican colleagues in the House of Representatives or the Senate, so he's very much one out. He's had a harsh and adversarial relationship with Donald Trump going back to the 2016 campaign when Romney was against him. You know, remember within the Republicans at that time there was the Never Trump movement, of which Romney was a part. Now it's fallen apart in the 4 years since because Trump's doing a very good job as the president. The Republican Party wants to rally around him in an election year. There'll be a lot of people riding on the Trump coattails in their various contests around the country in November. So Romney, I think, you know, just needs to be seen as a black sheep.
Yeah, well, look, we all know that partisan loyalty, party political loyalty is very strong, although it's less strong in the US, of course, than it is here. But this is the corollary, of course, of what Mitt Romney has said. He's really condemning all his fellow Republican senators, isn't he? If he's saying that he's voted for truth and justice, he's saying that they've been cynical.
Well, he's entitled to arrive at an individual assessment as a juror in the Senate, but it wasn't shared by his colleagues, that's true. But it was most importantly not shared by constitutional experts who said that whatever Trump had done, it didn't rise to the level, the threshold of high crimes and misdemeanours. And there's also the counter-argument that under the Constitution, Trump has a duty to weed out corruption wherever he's told about it, wherever he sees it, extending to Hunter Biden's activities in the Ukraine. So there's an argument that Trump was doing his job and obviously deserves to stay in the White House. That's what I'd always believed through it. And, you know, you only had to see the ridiculous actions of Nancy Pelosi tearing up the State of the Union speech in a way that totally disrespected the office of the president. All the people mentioned in the speech, all the predecessor presidents, to understand it, the impeachment wasn't about justice. It was about partisan politics and probably the high point of Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, that's the trouble for the Democrats, exactly what Nancy Pelosi did. It's just a confirmation of the longest dummy spit in the history of politics, and that really plays to Donald Trump's strengths. But looking back earlier in the week, what about the Iowa caucus and the shambles there? Are we any closer to seeing who might emerge as the Democrat nominee?
Well, I don't think it'll be Joe Biden because he tanked in Iowa. It was an elongated process. If you can't run your own party, how can they run that nation? They couldn't even work out tallying votes for people who assemble in community halls and shopping malls to stand in a corner and decide to support a candidate. I think the race will come down to Sanders from the radical extreme wing of the Democrats and Pete Buttigieg, who is more moderate, younger. I think he's got the advantage in that contest that the three main opponents, Warren, Biden and Sanders, sort of look like your grandparents, whereas Buttigieg represents a younger, articulate, more vibrant generation. He's distinctive in that regard. But if he can beat Sanders, then he'd probably have the nomination. I don't think Biden could do it. I don't think Warren can do it. And in many respects, it's academic. I don't think any of them can beat Donald Trump because the economy is strong. And in post-war American history, it's only when the economy is weak that they've got rid of incumbent presidents. And there I'm thinking of Jimmy Carter and George Bush Sr. The Trump economy is so strong, you would have thought that his re-election is almost certain.
Yeah, I read a survey this morning saying 9 out of 10 Americans are confident about the direction of the economy, which is a pretty telling statistic in an election year. I want to come back to Australian politics here, or Australian cultural issues, I think, Mark, and ask you about the way the Rugby League Commission, with the Indigenous All-Stars game, has agreed not to play the national anthem, bowing to the wishes of Indigenous players, Indigenous activists. Let's first up have a listen to what one of the players has got to say. This is Ryan James from the Gold Coast Titans.
It just doesn't represent us or what we do, so it's generally up to the Commission now. You know, we can stand there silently and protest, but it's up to the Commission to see what they do, and you know, they know where we stand as a team. Just some of the lyrics that, you know, they've referenced here to free, and you only got to look back to when my mum was born. She was born Indigenous to this land, and she wasn't even born recognised as a person, so that's not that long ago. Mum was born in 1960, so we've definitely come a long way since then, but it's just some of those words just don't connect to us as people, and we just don't stand for it.
Now, Mark, Ryan James and any others are welcome to have their attitudes to the national anthem. I'll disagree with them, but they can take any stand they like. My problem here is the NRL not playing it. I mean, sure, they're running the game. It is a big game. They should play the anthem. If any player doesn't want to sing it, well, that's up to them.
Yeah, exactly. Why do we pay very big salaries to NRL executives to let the players run the game? The NRL executives should decide who takes the field. They should decide the necessity for the anthem being played. And at most of these events, a vast majority of spectators sing the Australian national anthem. But do you take Ryan James to be an expert? He couldn't even get the words of the Welcome to Country out, to his huge embarrassment on grand final night. And does he know the words? The first 5 words are, Australians all, let us rejoice. That includes him, his mother, everyone he knows, all Australians are part of that. Australians all, let us rejoice. You couldn't get more inclusive words starting any national anthem anywhere in the world. And the other point, of course, is that Ryan James is on a big salary, he's got sponsorship, he's playing a game that only exists. We only know about Ryan James because of the arrival of the first fleet in 1788 and the subsequent importation of rugby and then rugby league football in Australia. If they want to just stick with Indigenous culture, hand in your big salary, hand in your sponsorships, go back to your Indigenous culture and don't play what they would term to be the white man's game. They play the white man's game to collect the money. They won't sing what they describe to be the white man's song because it doesn't cost them anything.
Yeah, look, it's very sad. As you say, I think the anthem unites all of us. We can all have our issues with our history, with our systems, with our politics. You're free to argue that. That's the point. And it's such a pity, I think, that the NRL don't play the anthem, that they give in to this. They shouldn't really take that side.
Can I just say the other important point for spectators? I'm a massive rugby league fan, but I don't know anyone who goes to any of these games to say, oh, that's an Indigenous player, that's a Maori player, that's an Islander, that's someone, parents born in Europe, someone else born in Australia. We go to watch their excellence, their sporting ability. Nobody goes to the footy to be involved in the political dimension of identity politics. In fact, you go to the footy to get away from things like politics. So for these players to be introducing politics into the game, you know, the old slogan, go woke, go broke. Look at the Rugby Australia now, basically with no money. The Rugby League administrators would be well advised to keep politics out of the game because the spectators don't want it. Run the game for the interests of the excellence and the athletic ability of the players and the teams.
Yeah, well said. Look, I want to just check in with you on another issue, another example of the world going absolutely nuts. Now, the animal activists now who are all talk about us being speciesists now because we consider ourselves above animals, they don't want us to use the term pet. We shouldn't refer to our cats or dogs as pets because this is somehow demeaning. They should be referred to as companions. What are your thoughts?
Well, Chris, again, it's a rewriting of history. Our pets are only alive and thriving and well fed and well looked after because they were domesticated by humans. And a lot of these animals left in the wild would not exist. So humans have domesticated, looked after them as pets. And unfortunately, this animal justice movement, I see them in the New South Wales Upper House, their theory is that pets have got the same rights, the same equality as humans in our society. And I've heard speeches up there that pigs can play video games and soccer. You know, that pigs are equal with us. Well, as long as my backside points to the ground, no pig will be playing centre forward for Manchester United. You know, this stuff is just delusional. It's just not true. So we love our pets, we look after our pets, and that's where it should rest.
Thanks for joining us, Mark. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thanks, Chris.